Yeah, okay, thanks. Now it's working. Right, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
now seems like okay. First, we will discuss about the assignments, I gave, I think, group assignment and individual assignment also already prepared. This is the very easy one because I will give a material you to study, because we have plenty of materials. As a teams, you can study materials. In addition to that, you can search the literature and you can put your local knowledge, and thereafter you can come up with a good report. Then you can see the first one, the group assignment. Work as a group for group maximum 5, but the anyway I heard that you have some members 8, some groups have 8 members. It doesn't matter if you feel that everybody has something to do, then that's okay, with me. But what I need is a finally very good report, original, the very innovative, creative report. If the each and every group can give, and the anyway that you have presentation also, then others can contribute, during the presentation times. You're presenting a very draft level one, therefore after presentation you have time to further improve it, in presentation you get a comments from the lecturer, plus maybe sometime we will invite some outside also, industry person also, those who have some knowledge on this area. Then he will also comment, Sam also commenting, and your colleagues also commenting. Then thereafter you can come up with the nice report, right? Then you can see the questions I'm asking in the group assignment. Select any industry from any economic sector. It can be agriculture, or industry, or service from Sri Lankan economy, and explain the possible usage or applications of frontier and emerging new technologies. There are two type of technologies, what we call the frontier technology and the emerging technologies, such as the industry 4, including the AI, IoT, big data, blockchains, 5G, 3D printing, the drones. Drones are heavily used in agriculture, even for other security, the work also, military also heavily used in, and the biotechnology, robotics, the gene editing, nanotechnology, and how they can change the industry, and including wages, profit, wealth creation, and inequality between the regions, and finally, there are possible advanced contributions to the economic growth and development in Sri Lanka. Then you see the economic growth and development are two things, economy sometimes growing, there is a GDP or GNP growth, but development is some broad-based things, everybody should have to have the decent life, the equal decent life. There is a development, economic development. Everybody should have to have the decent life. Economic growth is something else. There is the GDP growth. Sometimes economy is growing, but without economic development. But we want both economic growth plus the development. That means the GDP per capita growth plus the GDP growth plus the decent life for everybody, the access to water, access to electricity, the access to transport, access to good, the law and order, the environmental infrastructure, ethical situation, sustainability, and all these aspects covered within the economic development angles. And that is the what we call the assignment topic. And the two groups are not allowed to repeat the same topic. Before starting work on this group assignment, get the topic approved by your teacher. That means whenever you complete the more or less the topic complete, discuss with your group members and select some area, and thereafter inform to me. In the maybe next class we can discuss that one, then I can avoid the repetition. Normally in previous batches we do that, is the mainly doing by the class representative. But this time I think still you don't have class representatives. So both batch, if you can appoint that one, that may be easy, then we can delegate this duty to him or her, then his duty is to make sure that the no repetition, right? And thereafter I gave an individual assignment also, but this one I put a tentative date as the April 30th. But if you feel that this may be the too early, but we can change it, but my advice, before you start the next semester, it's better to finish everything this semester, Otherwise it will drag, this may be good, sometime this maybe you can extend to even your dissertation, your MBA dissertation, outside you can work on that, finally you can select some industry sector and you can apply these things, how can we use the artificial intelligence to energy sector, by using the AI we can save a lot of energy, a lot of public sector, private sector, you can see a lot of energy the wastage happening, by using the AI. If we can save energy, if we can come up with some policy recommendation, I think everybody is happy, even the CB is happy and the ministry is happy, maybe your company also happy and public also happy, sustainability group also happy. In that way, you can think about that. And we'll go to the individual assignment. Individual assignment is a very short individual assignment. Don't write, maybe one page. If you can write, that's better, 1 page or 2 page or maximum 3 pages. That is the individual one. Then you can see select. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then the group assignment, okay, you can do it. If you have 8 members, you can see that, as you can appoint a group leader, and maybe convene a group leader, then to make sure that everybody is contributing. Don't allow any free passengers, Likewise, in last lectures, we said that, public goods, you have what people don't make it as a public goods, then the free riders will come, they will say, look, my friend, I have this commitment, I can't contribute, but put my name there, Don't allow that, that is not the right way. If there's such a problem, so please inform to me. Then we are not giving marks to them if they have evidence, to that one. Therefore, the group leader must be, they're normally in Harvard case method also, that is the way it works, and group leaders' duty is to make sure that everybody is contributing, Sometimes if I have some suspicion, I will say each and everybody to say which section you are responsible, That is another way to do it, It is a teamwork, but the individual has to contribute to it. Otherwise, it never become a teamwork, And that way, think about, group assignment. Anybody has any queries or questions regarding the group assignment? You have a representative now, Yeah, I got the message. We have a representative now. Who's that representative?
It's me, sir.
Yeah, right. Okay, then can you look after this part? You collect the students groups, the topics, and make sure that they are not overlapping each other. Let's assume that one group want to select the IoT, but don't allow other groups to select it. Then sometimes you can put maybe like a random, draw out type of things. You put the names of these things and you say them to pick up it. Then
Okay.
but you ones get a good ones, that's what we like to do, rather than doing by teachers ourselves. You people to get organized and do it by yourself, then it will improve.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Think about that way, because everybody like to take IoT or maybe AI, what topics are there, drones and things like, but maybe hard areas also there, Then sometime maybe I just put only the few frontier and the new technologies, but there are plenty of other technologies emerging nowadays, Then maybe if any group can come up with a technology which is not available there, that also good, Then think about maybe future, going to change by the technology always. Right. Then we go to the individual assignments. Then individual assignments, you can see very short one. It is going to be even if you can write a 1 page, that's okay, Write in 1 page is you have to have what we call excuse me, you have to have the very good academic writing skills, I'm quite sure you will not develop at this stage. Once you complete 2 years with us, definitely you will develop the good academic writing skills, You have to write the way which others can't understand. That is academic writing, Then if you don't...
Excuse me, sir. I just want to make a note that I don't see the individual assignment on the Moodle. Only the group is available.
Yeah, a group we put it, but individual assignment I didn't put to the Moodle, but I will put it today.
Okay.
But here you have, we will discuss that one here, I put only the group assignments, then individual one today I'm going to put it, and we can discuss here, individual one is there. The individual one, you can see the very short one, and the maximum maybe 3 pages enough, right? But don't copy from somewhere. Then you can see the select any indigenous technology developed by Sri Lankans. Because Sri Lankan is a great nation, we do get the Sinhalese, Tamils, and Islam and other people, the Dutch and Burger, Portuguese, and all of us get together and develop very many technologies in this island nation. Some are world-class technologies. Especially in history. Then if you go to the irrigation and water technology, we were number one in the world. During the 6th century, 12th century. Some of the things which we developed in 6th century, you could not see even the 12th century in the world. We were number one in water technology. Then if you go to the Rajarata area, you will see that the Dagabas, the scubas, tanks, and this type of lot of trans basins and irrigation, that type of things we were good. Sometime think about we maybe develop some of the materials I can send to you to read. Then you will see the Portuguese was amazing to see that while they were invading Sri Lanka, the guns Sri Lankan manufactured, the world best guns developed by us during that time, because we had that much good technology. But we don't know the colonialism. Due to that one, most of the technologies, they stop, and thereafter they start to link us with the world economy as a primary producers and market for manufactured goods. Thereafter our technology development stop, and thereafter we were importing technology from western part of the world. Finally we end up with this type of the vicious cycle. Then that way, sometime maybe if you go to the rural Sri Lanka, you will see still some of the technologies are there, but no one documented that one. This may be the good time you to do that type of, that may be good work. Sometimes if you go to the village blacksmith, the Kamal person, blacksmith, you will see they have their own indigenous technology. The tools they use, and sometimes they are very sustainable. In that way, you can see the select any indigenous technology developed by Sri Lankans, explain its origin, development, and current status, and the possibility for future development. Some may be already stopped, some may be disappeared sometime, due to whatever reasons, but maybe region wise also that may be different. If you go to the up country, you may have Kandy area. If you go to the what called areas called Gadala, Denia, Ambedkar, you find the brass industry was there. The pottery is somewhere. If you go to southern Sri Lanka, that way the various part of the island has a various type of technologies. They specialize. If you go to the southern Sri Lanka, you will see they have a special technology with the fishermen, fisheries sector, maybe curd industry, and that way, if you come to maybe Rajarat area, maybe they may have special things to deal with what we call the chain cultivation, they mean agriculture, the Rajarat, especially the how do they live with the animals, they had a very good habitations with the animals. We didn't have something called the human elephant conflict during that time. But nowadays we have that one. There may be indigenous technology to settle that problem, but which we maybe not, we don't know, because no one documented it. This may be the good opportunity, through literature. Some of you may have friends there, and some of you have relatives there. Some of you are from that area, sometime maybe origin from that area, maybe especially in Jaffna. They may have their own indigenous technology, coming from their own culture, religion, and things like, maybe Islam areas also. In some areas you find the Islam people are heavily populated. Some of our Islam colleagues maybe can come up with the technology related with their own the religious or whatever ethnic. Then likewise Sinhalese, we have our own technology with more or less related with our culture and our religion. That way the various part of the island, you will find the various type of technologies are available, but no one documented that one. Indigenous technologies. Then you can see these indigenous technologies can be found in any Sri Lankan traditional industry. Especially in traditional industry, you find a lot of these technologies. Handloom sector, you find the embroidery, and there are a lot of the pottery industry, and the batik industry, and there are a lot of things available. Brass industry, and sometimes maybe agriculture related things. The traditional industry or economic sector, agriculture. Likewise, cinnamon sector, you can see that maybe tea sector, or maybe the rubber, coconut, or maybe domestic agriculture, chain cultivation, vegetable, fruits, and things like inside you can see the how do they deal with the fertilizer issue. In those days we didn't use a chemical fertilizer, we use a natural fertilizer, and even the pesticide. Sometimes they are not techno aware, But sometimes maybe, you know, the technology, it can be a process technology or product technology, or technology has a component, you know, we are learning from other lecturers, you know, but not only the as a technical technocrats, you know, we always want to see the technovia parts, but there are ogavia part of the technology, you know, human way part of the technology, and the infoware part of the technology, you know. Sometimes you can say the when it comes to the fatty or chain cultivation, you know, the fruit or vegetable cultivation, they have the domestic, what we call the mantra or whatever, you know, they get the vote and they say something, you know, 10 times, and they put there after insects are not coming. Yeah, that also part of the indigenous technology, you know. But sometimes maybe it's not scientific, but you know, it's not following the Karl Popper's the scientific the methods, you know, no evidence, fact figures, no causal relations, but it is working, you know, with them, you know. Sometimes maybe the good time you to visit, you know, if you have time as a group, maybe visit to the Vedda area, you know, indigenous people, you know, because they are very healthy, you know. Why they are so much healthy? You know, you hardly see diabetics with them, and you know, no heart disease, and you know, things like, you know, that maybe the dietary pattern sometime, or maybe the living lifestyle, you know, that also we can consider as a part of the indigenous technology, you know. Then that way, you know, the industry or economic sector, you know, agriculture, industry or service, and it can be any components of the technology, such as a process or product. It can be related with the process sometime. Maybe our local process may be different, you know, maybe product wise, or maybe technoware, ogaware, humanware, infoware, that aspects. Especially while you are writing this 2-3 pages one, you have to explain the cost effectiveness of this indigenous technology, you know. They're not costly that much, you know, when it comes to the foreign technology, it's a huge cost, you know. Nowadays you can see we are importing the technologies, and now we don't have a hard currency, we are in real trouble, you know. But we have maybe our local technologies which we ignored, you know. But sometimes productivity may be not good, but they may be very sustainable, you know. That's why I said, you know, explain the cost effectiveness of this indigenous technology, you know. There is a truly local technology, and its sustainability in terms of the environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and ethical sustainability. These technologies are not going to harm to family values, or maybe kids, or women, or nothing, you know, and societies, or any religions, or maybe any social groups, or income groups, or nothing, you know. Environmentally, you know, it can be man-made environment or natural environment. They live with the environment, you know. They don't harm that one, you know. Then you can learn a lot, you know, out of you know, at least you have to think it, you know, you need a very creative mind to do this assignment, you know. But economics part we covered, you know, cost effectiveness is there, you know, definitely, you know, with zero cost, sometimes you do it, you know, that type of things. And this indigenous technology, but the whatever reasons, you know, we didn't develop our indigenous technologies, and some people are blaming to the colonial masters, you know, the Sri Lanka colonized by 3 colonial masters, you know, what we call the Portuguese, Dutch, and the Britishers with us, I think, over 300 years. And some people say they destroy everything, our local indigenous technology, and they link up us with the world economy as a primary producers, and the market for their manufactured goods. Therefore, you can see the most of the technologies now we are importing, you know. Local technologies, no place. Sometimes the technology itself has some problem. The productivity issues are there, you know. Sometimes the technology disappeared, you know. Thereby, normally go generations to generation. Is inherited, you know, the legacies. But that the second generation, they never want to do that. And sometimes, you know, if you go to the fisheries communities, they have their own indigenous technologies, you know. But it has some scientific, you know, back in also, you know. During the high wind times, they don't go to the sea, you know. That's normal, you know, that type of, you know, scientific area, you know, Aragon times, they don't do the fishing, you know, that type of things, you know, the chain cultivation you find there, and the other fatty cultivation you find in agriculture. You find a lot of this indigenous technology. Even the small and medium scale industries, you find it, you know, below the small and medium, what we call the cottage level, you know, the very many industries, you find that one, you know, especially the deeper interior of the country, you know. Sometimes maybe interesting technologies, you know, developed by, if you want to go to the what we call the service sector, like a blacksmith, you know, in village level there are plenty of these small workshops available, you know. But their technology may be very rude, but they are very sustainable, you know, but they don't harm to anybody, and things like, you know, they don't use over resources and things like, you know, ethically maybe good, and you know, Things like, sometimes because of the sound, the trees are giving more product and things like, cultivation going up and things like, there are some beliefs are there, belief also we can consider part of the knowledge, what we call the info way are part of it, the human way are part of it. And, there's some rituals, the science typically maybe is very hard, but it may has some, some science background, which we didn't through it, that way. Then think about this, or this may be very interesting, maybe to do research, it really increase your inquiry in your mind, your mind will want to do some untouched areas, sometimes Sri Lanka has a vast plenty of the indigenous technologies which we didn't touch. Sometimes this may be the good opportunity as to at least document that one, then your MBA class can happy, out of this module, you have done a great job. Your group assignments, you identify the frontier and new technologies and how can we use that one to improve our economic growth and our development, On the other hand, we identify our own indigenous technologies, which inherited by us, from our forefathers, and, thereafter, why don't we develop it, But maybe sometime if you can identify the good areas, sometime maybe our faculty can start maybe the small setup, maybe the study in some unit, indigenous technology study unit, but which we don't have at the moment, Then think about, it has, if we can do it rightly, then our class maybe have around 50 students. Sometimes some of these technologies, our entrepreneurship MBA students, they are very enterprising people, and then they can start some business, if we can identify some of these promising indigenous technologies, why not we can sell it to abroad, can develop it, and then this time may be hard times, you can bring a hard currency and you can save the hard currency, sometimes you can come up with the fertilizer which is very cost effective, affordable, environmentally sustainable, ethically, socially sustainable. Why the farmers like to buy it, the problem is that we don't have that technology, because you should be very genuine also, in that sense, that way, think about that individual assignments. That is your creativity, but don't write too much, too many things. Some of you are maybe already doing this type of work, maybe as a hobby, maybe as a social responsibility as a scientist, Sometimes you want to go to the rural area and you want to help people to develop their own roads with their own technology, You don't want to go to the Western, the materials, locally available material by using very sustainable rural road they can do by themselves, As the Moroto University MBA students, you are trying to help them to transfer this technology to them, technology with them, but they don't know how to do it rightly, We can help that way, Think about sometime maybe some village level schools, then sometimes they don't know how to get the water, Sometimes water is available in that area, Maybe very small technological support they need it, I remember some time back, some of our MBA students were doing that type of things, Go to the deep interior of the country and select maybe poor family or poor village or poor maybe the school or and help in as a group, Then we can see that, that is part of your field work or maybe immersion, You go to the field and you did something as a social responsibility, With assignment can be that, But anyway, if we can come up with the good write-up, we can develop a book, the ignored Sri Lankan indigenous technology, Then everybody like to read it, Then that may be good, Then you may have to happy, As a batch, you have created the very good things out of your 2 assignments, Right. Anybody has any questions regarding these 2 assignments? This also I put April 30th, but if you feel that you want more time, no issues, deadline or no before. You can, here there's no hard and fast structure. You come up with your own maybe new structure. I want to see that your creativity, your innovativeness, creativity, originality, That is a thing what we think out of box, don't stick into the any report structure, You can come up with something new. Maybe you can start first with a conclusion, Yeah, but introduction can come last part of it, That's possible, I want to see that more innovative, innovativeness, everybody has something, That is why you are here, You have something something with you, We want to get out of that, out of this class. And think about that, This is a very innovative out of box assignment, individual one. And group one is more or less structured, you know, you have to follow the university given system, otherwise audit will come to me, right? Anybody has any questions? Can you hear me so far?
Yes, can hear, and I have a small clarification regarding this picking the topic for the
Yeah.
group assignment. So you mentioned that if a group picked a one technology that cannot be picked by other group.
Yeah,
But so for an example, let's say the IoT technology. So IoT technology can be applied to agriculture as well as it can be applied to any industry, right? For an
yeah, that's
example,
possible. That's
yeah,
possible.
that is possible, right?
That's possible. That's possible.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Sector wise, you can change it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
don't. I mean, the more or less, you know, the if you can avoid, you know, that's better. You know, the agriculture sector you can do lot. You know, but you take the drones. You know, drones you can put into the military purpose, and you know the transport purpose, and even agriculture. The heavily it's happening. You know, nowadays we are using it. But try to cover as much as almost all the new what we call the front end emerging technologies. Otherwise, maybe all the class taking only IoT and you know, the matter going to be finished. You know, make sure that you know every area is going to cover. You know, if one group selected, try to discourage that one and go to the maybe the AI to do some group. You know, maybe some other drones. You know, otherwise everybody IoT take into the each and every sector, finish the work. You know. Yeah, think about, you know, don't give a easy life, you know, things should come in a hard way, you know, easy, you know, easily comes, easily go, you know. Therefore, you have to get it right, you know, you have to do literature review, then finally you will develop by yourself, you know, right? Otherwise, one group is doing something and other group can, you know, everybody can copy it and they are after different sectors, they apply it, you know. That was not the idea, you know. Yeah. Think about, you know, right? More innovative way of doing, covering all the whatever the technology is available, you know. I just put only few, but there are plenty of new technologies are emerging, you know, always, you know, in different sectors. Try to cover as much as, you know, I think most of you are the technical people, you know, technocrats, you know, we call it techies, you know. Techies know all these, the new things are emerging in different sectors, you know, especially ICT sector. A lot of things happening, you know, in agriculture also, you know, very many things are happening, you know, industry also, service sector also, you know, a lot of things, even you can say now higher education, you know, now completely based on now the what we call the online, you know, a lot of innovations happening there, you know. Yeah, that way, you know, think about that way. Right? Anybody has any more questions? Individual assignments? But during the, I think now COVID situation is not that much issue, you know. Sometime maybe in your mind working something, you know, that you want to do something for poor people in Sri Lanka, you know, the less advantaged people, you know, disadvantageous people. This may be the right assignment, you know. Sometimes you can identify the blacksmith issues, you know, and you can maybe you can develop their indigenous technology, you know, to improve their productivity, you know. At the moment, they're very crude and, you know, making sound and things like, you know. Sometimes you can take the surrounding your university, you know, what is available industry, the timber industry, carpentry, and, you know, wood industry, you know. There's a timber, wood, and carpentry industry, and you can see that what are the problems, you know, they are, you know. They may have their own, you know, if you go to this Morotumulla, not the Morotumulla area, you know, the inside the Morotumulla, you know, it's almost like a peta, you know, like a Paliagoda, you know. Go to the deeper interior, you find there are plenty of the what we call the carpentry shops and, you know, the, work areas and, you know, various type of things available, you know. You will find there are different culture, different language, you know, the complete different world, you know, almost. Then you will find there are plenty of the indigenous technologies are there for centuries. They're doing the same thing, you know. Sometimes you can develop that one and help them to, you know, come up with the good designs and, you know, the less you know, the sound the technologies, machineries, and, you know, things like, you know, that you can be happy, you know, as the MBA students of Morocco, you would help them to, you know, uplift the technology, and finally it will improve their living standard, you know. That way, sometime maybe on enterprise people, you know, some of you are maybe very enterprising people, you can start your own business, you know. As a consultant, you are giving this type of service to them, you know, they very much like it, you know. They may be happy that Morocco University is coming and doing something for them, you know. So far, they were saying the Morocco University is located surrounding us, but no use for us, you know. You can change that one, sometimes you can select the carpentry industry and you can see that, timber industry, wood industry, and, you can see that wastages in wood, then you can come up with a new product, that way, think about that way. Right, I think now it's clear, individual and group assignment. If you have any problems, I'm always open, for that, right. Then we go to the normal lecture. For today lecture, I gave one PPT, actually two PPT. One is a consumer and producer behavior, because today I'm also not that much well, therefore I have to do it slowly. I guess most of your classmates also informed me they were also not well. Then anyway, we'll do very slow lecture today. And for today lecture, I gave one, you can say the risk and uncertainty PowerPoint file is there. And in addition to that, the Harvard, the case study I gave, Harvard case study, I think it is related with the risk analysis. And we'll discuss, when it comes to that slides. And you can see the objectives of today's lecture to explain risk and uncertainty and the related concepts at the operational level. Then you can say, what do you mean by risk? What do you mean by uncertainty? And the related so many concepts. These are mainly analytical, areas, analytical subjects, risk, you have to measure it, uncertainty, at least you have to try to measure it, and the operational level, we are not talking about the high-end level, that means the CEO, maybe CFO level, because that is a strategy, but they were mainly dealing with the strategy type of policy decisions. But the operational level, we were trying to implement more practical level. And thereafter to explain difference between the risk and uncertainty, and to give an idea on various risk categories. You find in while you are doing a business, business is almost is a game, like last time we were saying that, you have to manage the risk, and anything come about the future, business is all about the future, you are investing and you want to make money in future, then if anything happening in the tomorrow, no one knows, therefore the business always very risky things, if you don't want to take the risk, don't come to business, therefore risk lesson is very important if you want to start your own business, then to give a basic knowledge on the risk identification, that's very important. How do you identify the risk? By experience matters, experienced managers know, experienced engineers, experienced accountant, and experienced people know what are the type of risks going to happen, when going to happen, what you can do with that one. Therefore, the identifications matters there, and to give a basic knowledge on risk quantification. Once you identify, you have to quantify it. In order to quantify, you can impose very many things. Probability and is the easiest way of it. And thereafter, to give a basic knowledge on the risk analysis and the assessment techniques. Once you identify, once you quantify, thereafter you have to analyze and you have to assess it. Then there are plenty of techniques. Over a million techniques you find. Through the textbooks and through experience, and you will develop that one. In your textbooks you have plenty of maybe over 10-20 analysis and the assessment techniques. Most are heavily the computer based and the analytics based. Therefore people say the risk is an analytics business. It is mainly deal with the data, the data science mainly. If you want to be a risk person, you should be a very good person with the measurement, measurement culture. The techies are very good in the risk analysis because it mainly come with the mathematics and the science. Thereafter, to give a basic knowledge on the risk management methods and the techniques, that's the very important. How we are going to manage the risk. Easy ways. There are some people available in the market. Those who buy the risk. Insurance guys. But not 100%. Some of your risks they will take. But some of the risks like a profit, they don't want to take it. Then there are some risks. Like health risk. They are taking it. With the aging, sometimes they are reluctant to take it. But anyway, now the world has changed. Technology has changed. You can easily check the people's the health situation. Thereafter, anyway, some of the risk there are professional people available in the market to take it. And to explain risk and uncertainty related concepts with the practical cases and the conceptual exercise. There are a lot of software guys now surviving through selling the risk related the packages. Then you can see the learning outcomes. The ones you read the respective chapter, once you listen to us, the ones you read these PowerPoints and they do the assignments, exercise, and a case analysis, you are going to get this type of outcomes. To get to know the difference between the risk and uncertainty and its importance for engineering projects, because Most of the projects are engineering projects. And to get some idea about the various risk categories, to understand the basics on risk identification, risk quantification, and the risk assessment technique. That is a quantification part. And nowadays we have a software, where you have to only collect the data and you input, then automatically things are coming. You have to know how to interpret it, interpretation part matters. Thereafter, to get some practical knowledge on applications of the risk management techniques for engineering projects, especially the sensitivity analysis you do and the switching values you do, the risk analysis you do, prompt and the matrix, and there are those, some of you are maybe working in some projects, then you will see if you do get any projects, it has a one chapter, any project report, one chapter regarding the risk, then especially in the feasibility stage or pre-feasibility stage or the technical detail design stage, you find, even after completion of the project also, we are again checking, the feedback type also, some risk analysis part is there, because humans, we born with the risk, and, whatever we do, it involve risk, sometime maybe anything can happen, while after completion of the lecture, maybe we are going home, fortunately you are staying at home. Whenever you come as an in-person to lecture, while you're coming, and the human, we always carry risk, we are born in as a humans, not only humans, even animals, nature, everybody carrying the risk, risk is embedded with life, it's a part of the life, if you want to do business, then it's normal, if you don't want to take the risk, don't come to business, business is a risk, if you know how to minimize risk, how to take the risk, how to be neutral to the risk, then you can make a good money, the business always taking the risk, giving a loan to the person, bank taking the huge risk, whatever security collateral they give, but they maybe the banks easily cannot pay it, but if he died, what you can do? Nothing. Then the insurance are there, insurance company also can go bankrupt, in that way, there is sometimes maybe you can control by yourself, inside, but sometimes maybe now what is happening in the Russia is attacking to Europe, Ukraine, then you may be in a tea business, but now no, Russia is not allowed to buy Sri Lankan tea due to maybe the UN embargo, or maybe the American influence, then if you are a tea producing or tea exporting country, and you are in trouble, but you didn't do anything wrong, you can't do nothing. So now itself we have to think about risk minimizing, maybe divert into another market or whatever, things like, then you can see the risk is a very important thing if you want to do business. Then you can see the generally risk means your encountered outcome is different from your expected outcomes. That means you expect first class, you end up with a normal pass, Then in general, risk means chance of adverse consequences or loss occurring. When a range of potential outcome is associated with a decision, right? When a range of potential outcome is associated with a decision, and the decision maker is able to assign probabilities to each of these possible outcomes, then the quantifiable risk exists. We are trying to always quantify the risk. If you get the first degree, you can say that you can have a first class, second upper, second lower, maybe third class, and the normal pass or fail. Then you have 5 outcomes. Then you can easily impose a probability. Then equal chance of the getting first class maybe 20%. Equal chance of getting the fail maybe another 20%. That way, then if you want to go for the first class, what to do. You have to hard work, smart work, good work. Likewise, we discussed last time the try to be good with everybody, like Michael Porter's forces analysis, identify the key forces and have a better relationship with all these key forces, then you have a success, you don't have any risk, you're going to get a good first class. That way, then you can see the chance of loss due to the fact that all possible outcomes and their probability of occurrence is considered as a risk. The risk-free means outcome is certain and it's achievable. Example, the investment on government bonds and treasury bills, we know the government never going to vanish, the next government or the comes, whoever come to power, they have to pay it back, Now what happened in the Sri Lankan case, that some people don't want to take the risk, they invest on the government bonds, the sovereignty bond in Sri Lanka, whatever problem we face, they got their money, the government first paid their money, whatever reasons, Then some people don't want to take the risk, if you put a maybe commercial bank or maybe the other places we are giving a high rate of returns, but anytime you may not going to get it. But it's a very risky, sometime you are going to get it. But the government bonds and treasury bill is very low rate of return, but definitely you are going to get it. Therefore, if you don't want to take the risk, if you have some money, just put these things, treasury bills, government bonds, you are going to get it, whatever. Government going to stay forever. Then you can see more risky means greater variability in outcomes, and the lesser risky means lesser variability in outcomes. By look at this, the normal curve, you can see the project is risky or not, experienced people know it, by experience. If you ask the 20, 30 years experienced engineer about the projects, then he will say this type of risk you are going to encounter this year, from this front. Then you have to have this type of contingency plans, Therefore, risk mainly the experience things, you can, if you are an experienced person, how to tackle the risk. And the uncertainty is another thing, under uncertainty, you do not know the probabilities associated with the future, or you cannot estimate them with a measurement or assigning probability. You can't assign a probability. It can happen, but no one knows it. Under the uncertainty, selection criteria depend on the management philosophy of the authority. When outcomes of managerial decisions cannot be predicted with absolute accuracy, and all possibilities and the associated probabilities are unknown, then it is called an uncertainty, because you can't impose a probability. There, but you don't know, you can't quantify it. In general, under uncertainty, we don't know distribution, because that means the distribution is unknown, but we know it is happening. Therefore, it depends on the company philosophy, Then you can see the principle of risk management. The risk management should be create a value. That means it's analytic subjects, because we are living in anyway the measurement culture, People like to get the values, if people ask what is the percentage, how much it, because human always like to get the more what we call the quantified answer, whenever they see that you bought a car, then the first thing the question is the how much it, whenever they do see that you are wearing a good shirt or shoe or whatever, then the first question they're asking how much. People like values, because risk always, this quantify analytical subjects, then the whatever means we identify, we have to impose some value. Then people trust it, If you say something quantitatively, people know that, better it, Qualitatively is very vague, but we don't know it exactly. And then you can see another principle of risk management. Risk management should be an integral part of the organizational process. Another one, the risk management should be part of the decision making. Then these one by one explain in your main textbooks, and the risk management should explicitly address uncertainty also. And the risk management should be systematic and structured. That means it should be scientific, because always you can't do it, based on the rules or compliance. So, therefore more scientific, systematic and structured way you have to analyze it. The risk management should be based on the best available information, because we don't have a first-hand information, There's a humans, if we have first-hand information, the project is 100% the success, no risk at all, but no one knows what is going to happen for tomorrow, we get a Sri Lankan situation, no one knows what is going to happen in Sri Lanka. If you ask any of the business person in Sri Lanka, they never want to expand this time, they never want to invest, or they never want to start the new project. They say, we will wait and see that, no one knows which direction it will end up, the energy sector has issues, foreign the currency, we have issues, and, there are, world also not stable now, no one knows what's going to do by the Russia, if Russia is going to use the nuclear weapons, all of us are going to be in trouble, the half of the world population may be going to die, who knows, there are a lot of, the predictions are coming in different part of the world. Then you can see the risk management should be based on the best available, whatever available information we use, but most of the time we don't have first-hand information, sometimes maybe the government duty is to give it, government is not giving it, They are in the Sri Lankan government, you can say that, they were saying that the one minister say one thing, other minister say something. We don't have any clear information, very messy type of situation. Then therefore the private sector can't take the right decision, corporate world in the real mess now. Then you can say risk management should be tailored or personalized to the project, in project by project wise, we can't have a universal framework, it depends on the case by case. The risk management should be taken into account human factors, because humans, we always make errors, even you may be whatever smart person, anytime something can happen, the mistake can happen out of your one, then project can go the wrong way, The risk management should be transparent and inclusive, all the people, stakeholders should be included there, everybody has to know about the risk there. The risk management should be dynamic, iterative and responsive to the change, it should be part of the change management. Whenever it comes to the change management subjects, you will learn that one. Risk management should be capable of continual improvements and enhancement, the part of the what we call the knowledge management also. Then you can see these are the principle of risk management, one by one explained in your main textbooks in the respective chapter. So please read that one. And the common risk identification methods, then first one you can see objective based risk identifications. That means within bracket you can see what actually mean that. The objectives based risk identification means organizations and project teams have objectives. Any event that may endanger achieving an objective partly or completely is identified as a risk. You expect 100, you achieve 80%, then the 20% of risk is there. Another one, the scenario based risk identification. That is very famous. Even in your case study, you have that one, the Harvard case study. Because scenario based risk identification heavily used by the corporate world, start mainly first by the Shell gas company started scenario analysis. Because scenario analysis mainly different scenarios are created. These scenarios may be the alternative ways to achieve an objectives. When analysis of the interaction of forces, for example, market or battle, in market or battle, you find there are plenty of scenarios here, and when this is a game, likewise the last lecture we explained, and even that triggers an undesired scenario alternative is identified as a risk. Then you can say the Sri Lankan situation, what is going to happen to Sri Lanka based on the scenario analysis, Sri Lankan risk identification, we will stay as it is, the first scenario we can say a lot of hardships day to day, government say a lot of things, people suffer, first start with the gas, and thereafter it goes to the oil, and thereafter it came to the milk powder, and it goes to rice, and it goes to fisheries, vegetables, fruits, and things like thereafter you start with the infrastructure, transport, and schools close, universities close, and that way it will go time to time, it will open time to time, foods available time to time, electricity available, things like it will go. But sometime maybe all these problems be over, certain scenario, and Sri Lanka going to be the best place, those who want to leave the country, they want to come back, and things like, South Asia, one of the best country to live, that maybe other worse situation, Sri Lanka can collapse almost, and there are the people are writing for the foods, and, everybody is unhappy, and things like, now we can see that, what is happening in now Sri Lanka, if you go close to the petrol station, you will see people are fighting, and shouting, and 2-3 days in the queues, and things like sometimes maybe it's almost like the African continent, sometimes people are dying without food, and things like you are hearing that one, people can't come to work, no transport, and things like there's a worse situation, we know somewhere Sri Lanka can be, the next 2-3 years, then there is a scenario, we have to figure out where it is. But taking all the ecosystem, we have to think about, what is the political systems, economic system, and international arena, what is happening, and things like, sudden events, likewise, what happened to now the Russia is attacking Ukraine, how it is going to affect for us, and definitely some of our sectors, some of our exports mainly end up with the Russia and Ukraine, sometime maybe education side, I think around 1,000 students, medical students are mainly studying in Ukraine, in Russia also, you can see that Belarus and other countries, sometimes maybe this war can spread to other areas as well, then it directly affect for some of your relatives' education, and some people are working there, some are exporting goods, some we are importing there, in a world energy supply now in trouble, sometime now Middle East energy will divert to the Europe, then we don't have energy now, maybe oil we may have problem, gas we may have problems, in the wheat flour, the Russia is supplying 40% of world wheat, and that way you can see that then the scenario is the best way to analyze, first used by the what we call the Shell gas company. They have separate division inside, to study the scenario, but they don't trust forecasting, so the scenario is the right way to analyze the business situation. But in some MBA programs, they have separate subjects. I remember while I was doing my masters and PhDs in Notre Dame, they have the separate subjects called scenario planning. That is done by the person from the Shell gas, Shell gas headquarters in the Rotterdam. And I remember during that time, the person, the scenario, the director of that division came and delivered that module, but I didn't took that module, but I remember they're very expensive, that module. Right. Okay. The other one, you can see the common risk identification method is a taxonomy-based risk identification, or we call it catalog-based risk identification. It is a breakdown of possible risk sources, based on the taxonomy and knowledge of best practices. A questionnaire is compiled. The answers to the questions reveal the risk. Then what we call the catalog-based risk identification. So I remember this time also there are some students, some MBA students raised their MBA dissertation by using the catalog-based risk identification, they select the energy sector, maybe the transport sector, textile sector. Based on that one, the catalog-based risk, that is enough. You want to raise your MBA designations. And another one, the common risk check-in, what we call the risk list, can be prepared with known risk. Each risk in the list can be checked for applications to a particular situation, the common risk check-in. And the other one, the risk chartering or risk mapping. Then this method combine the above approaches by listing resources at risk, creating a matrix, we call the risk matrix or risk prompt list or sensitivity analysis under these headings, enable the variety of approaches, risk chartering, risk mapping. Sometimes, when it comes to the feasibility studies, we do that one. We were putting the NPV, EIR, and the cost benefits ratios, and thereafter we were saying the prices can go up and down, costs can go up and down, construction period can go up and down, then what is going to happen for these key indicators, ENPV and the EIR and the CB ratios, and a lot of financial ratios also. If these things are, even the prices going up, or maybe the cost is going up, still these indicators are positive, we say the project is less risky, project is robust, go ahead with the project. In feasibility stage we do that, risk charting, the risk mapping, all this we do that one. Even we have the separate department also, process risk mapping, we do business process management. We have the MOD department, where your MBAs come in, and they have undergraduate degree programs, they do risk mapping, the process mapping they do, they identify, and thereafter they want to improve it, efficiency improvement and minimizing the risk, and what are the risk categories, I think, can you hear me? Hello, class rep, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think everybody can hear, but normally we record the lecture and we put there, if you have problem. I think today, I don't know, power cuts happening. If power cuts or something happen, you don't want to worry about that one, because we record the lecture and we upload to the Moodle, If you need to even re-listen to that one, And what are the various risk categories? That are also very important. Business risk, So what do you mean by business risk? In your book, you have 1-2 pages explain that one. Business risk means the chance of loss associated with the given managerial decisions. Managers are hiring, firing, promoting, and invest into some areas, and sometimes maybe expanding. Sometimes putting new product into the market, changing prices, and managers are taking so many decisions. Like some of you are maybe different level managers. Sometimes some of you may have your own companies. I'm quite sure maybe in addition to your what we call your main job, or most of you are doing your own business, then you are taking the decisions, sometimes maybe it's a complete failure, sometimes maybe very successful, maybe decisions, then what we call the business risks, whatever as a manager you take decision related to the business, it can involve risk, and the other one, the market risk, the chance that a portfolio of investment can lose money because of swings in the financial market as a whole, now it can happen, country like Sri Lanka, we have a huge market risk now, sometimes you are getting dollar loan and you are investing in local currency, and end of the day you have to raise money in local currency, and you have to convert to the dollar, but while you want to convert the dollar, no dollar available. Then that type of, most companies face this problem now. Another one, the inflation risk, country like Sri Lanka now with a heavy money printing, even IMF advises us to stop the money printing, then it will end up the economy, complete economy can collapse, now food inflation over 40%, 1/4, the highest in this Middle East and the South Asian region, poor people can't afford food now, you people are lucky, because you have a monthly income, you are scientists, you are professionals, but if you go to the deeper interior, the recently I was in an Nuvareli area to do some research, with the WHO, some agricultural research, we found that, most of the daily wage agriculture workers are now unemployed, no farming land want to hire them, because most of the farms are closed. On the one hand, other hand, the productivity has gone down, and the quality, and they don't hire the people, because earlier days there are fertilizer usage, and the pesticide, weedicide, and a lot of chemicals they are using. They need to hire the daily wage workers, but they're not hiring, Then you can see the inflation, food prices are going up, the more people are now about to suicide, and sometimes some families maybe go to the sleep without food, sometimes they have more kids, because God is giving kids to the poor people, that's the way it works, Then the inflation risk, so now especially the Sri Lanka is a huge problem in that area. And another one, the interest rate risk, you know, the earlier it was a very low, but today they increase it, you know. Yesterday they increased it, you know. They found that, you know, a lot of money in the market, you know, they have to get back money into the banking system, you know. They go to the IMF or not, now they are implementing IMF policy prescriptions, you know. Even if IMF come, these are the things, but they say, you know, the next move they have to do, these the loss making state enterprises have to restructure, privatize, you know. Especially Alanka, you know, if we can privatize Alanka, the most of our problem may be over, you know. Maybe sometime oil, you know, sector, you know, the oil corporations are making huge losses, you know. Electricity board, I think some of your colleagues, you can see, I don't care electricity, wherever come, I need only electricity, you know. I don't care, it comes from the CBO, like, oh, it doesn't matter, you know. Oil also, you know, whenever I want to fuel my car, I need oil for a cheaper price. I don't want to see that it want to come to the local company, so maybe Indian oil. It doesn't matter for me, you know. As long as I can get it for a cheaper price, I like it. That is the way it works around the world, you know. But some people say that we want to buy it from local companies, and you know that is why all these problems, you know. You can say the oil company situations, you know, their borders and you know OTs and things like, you know, there are billions they waste, you know. Yeah, that way. Then you can see the interest rate risk now we are facing, you know. The interest rates now increase, and then the more money we hope to get back to the system, you know, banking system. When people have lesser money, then it will cushion the what we call the inflationary expansionary situation in the economy. And another one, the credit risk, you know, always some people say that you can get credit, maybe sometime, maybe some, if you want to expand your business and you went to the bank, and earlier bank was saying is a 9.5, but now the bank is paying 10.5 to you, you know. Then the bank say, no, now it's a 14%. Then you are in trouble, you know. Credit risk, you know, they agree to give, but now they say, no, government policy. You know, technical risk, you know, you find as engineers always this problem, you know, as a techies, you know, you assume while the project was implementing, you can do this way, but while you are doing it practically, you find that is not the right way. Excuse me. You'll find that due to the new technology, or maybe the prices are going up, you know. So you thought that you can mix concrete with the normal water, but whenever you found, if you want to do the concrete and underwater, you have to mix with the ice water. The ice water not available in that area, then you have to get it from the city areas, then the, you know, the cost is going up. Then the technical risk you find always, you know. Sometimes maybe not only machinery side, even the people, you know, you assume that you may have this type of technical people, or maybe engineers or whatever, you know, the lower level, you know, down the level people, but after completion of the project, you will find you don't have this type of people in your country. The Middle East countries face this problem many times, you know, technical risk and the liquidity risk, you know, halfway through, no money, you know, the most of the SMEs are facing this problem, you know. Sometimes they don't know how to manage the money, or sometimes they are giving on unnecessary credit, you know, things like, you know, liquidity risk. Many SMEs collapse because this the liquidity risk and the nationalization risk, you know, government change, you know, the change in it, they will then take everything from you, you know. It happened, you know, Sri Lanka, many times it happened, you know. Some people say that is one of the biggest mistake we made, you know. Private sector, corporate sector should allow to work, you know, but instead of them, the government time, you know, due to the popular politics, they are taking this corporate world wealth, you know. Then if you look at the government, you know, the government officers and, you know, politicians, you know, they are ruining it, you know, within very short period time, you know. The huge corruption, mismanagement, nepotism, you name, all these human evils are there, you know. Then the nationalization risk always there, and the derivative risk in commodity market you find always, and the political risk always, you know, anytime political changes can happen in the country, you know, the new political party comes, you know, they are completely changing everything up and down, no national policies, you know. And the natural disaster risk, you know, likewise what happened to us, the C-19, you know, there is a COVID, due to COVID and tsunami and things like, you know, and then maybe the bomb blast, Eastern bomb blast. So those who are in the tourist sector, you know, the tourism industry, you know, natural disasters, man-made disasters, you know. And another one, the cultural risk, sometime maybe, you know, they are going to sell for a new market, you are investing in the Chinese market, but you never know about, you know, then you have, if you don't have that cultural, you know, that is why, you know, multinational corporations are giving a special training for the executives, you know, whenever they want to place them into the new market, you know, Islam market, or maybe the Middle East market, or maybe the Chinese market, you know, they're completely different in Eastern Europe market, you know, so their culture, ideology, language, you know, the different tastes are completely different, you know, religious values are different. Another one, the government, the policy risk, government policies are not fixed, political parties with, if you don't have the political correctness, then you're in trouble, that way government policy always can change. Currency risk, nowadays you find in Sri Lanka, and exchange rate risk, translation, transaction, operating, we have all these risks nowadays, then you can see the Sri Lanka today we can consider as the very risky country to do business, because due to all these problems, then the what we call the earlier we were very famous, the very receptive nations, we are looking after others, we are very smiley, but today little the difficult to accept that, if you are going very closer to the petrol shed, then you will see people are shouting, putting so much, the trouble to others, and the fighting each other, and the harmony has gone away, then it can happen, the any society more risk can come, the law and order will collapse. The risk can classify according to the various headings, it can be direct or indirect project risk, and the company risk and the country risk, some countries are very risky to business, especially some African countries, very, very difficult to do business. And actually it is opinion and the experience related things, the risk, some people like to take it, some people don't like to take the risk, and experienced people know that the risk is not that much big things to them, they know it, they know how to calculate it, likewise, if you are working 25 years, 30 years, in the same professions, then how to, like engineers, project engineers, they know, this year this problem will come, this year this problem, this section will, then what can I do, and things like, as a young engineer, sometimes you're asking from the senior engineers, if you are given a new project, then they will explain to you very clearly, this type of risk can come this year, this type of this thing, what you have to do, and you have to close down this, you don't want to expand that area, have all these contingencies list, and, retired people, if you have a problem with finding engineering people, young people, go to the retired people, have a consultancy list and things like, then you can see it is more or less the opinion and the experience related things risk. Some people don't care it, then this is the example in your textbooks. You have, for the risk, a key engineer with wide access to restricted and privileged information about the projects to develop a new product become disgruntled and leave her employers, then you can see he or she takes all the knowledge acquired to the new employer, the firm's main rivals, it happened always, in corporate world, but we can't think about, only one person left, okay, I can recruit now maybe another 100, but that was not the case. She left with all the secret informations, all the key informations, and then the rivalry company can easily start new product, then you can see this has now jeopardized the project to develop the new product, since it becomes highly likely that the rival firm will develop a competing product very quickly. It happened in very many areas, in software area, the communication, and everywhere, even construction and manufacturing. The project was sensitive to the risk of specialist knowledge becoming available to the rival firms. That is why, the company secretary is a very important person, she has all the key informations, therefore, the companies always look after the very rightly the company secretary, the company secretary has all the key informations about the company, they never want to see that, she is going to lose for a company. And this is the further the risk identification, the process, the process of risk assessment. Actually, assessment is identifying specific risk and obtaining a clear definitions of risk, including how important the risk to the project, what the severity of its occurrence would be, its sensitivity, and the likelihood that risk occurring. First you identify, thereafter analyze these in terms of their impact on the performance, cost, schedule, and the quality. You can prepare a table and and identify, thereafter you can see the input, output, and schedule, the quality, cost items, estimate the probability of the risk occurring during the execution of the projects, the project exposure, and the prioritize the risk according to exposure effect and the problems associated with the compound in the risk. Enables management to monitor risk factors and actions during the executions of the projects. Then you can see this is a tactical planning of the projects. You have everything. There is identification part, risk analysis part, and the risk management part. Then you can see this identification you are learning from your project management lecturer, what we call the work breakdown structure, the WBS we call. There are a lot of BS, a lot of breakdowns you find there. And the work breakdown structure, you identify the project and you break down projects into the smaller CDT, then you can easily identify where the risks emerge. WBS is a very famous in project management. Then you can prepare a particular risk assessment checklist. You identify the risk, And thereafter probability of occurrence, you can impose the probability, and thereafter assess each risk and the likely impact for maybe the cost inside the schedules, and thereafter list of register you can prepare, that you can rank the list, the risk, the important risk you have to consider. Some of the risks you cannot consider it because it's not that much important. And then you can see the identification part, analysis part, and then management part, what you can do there. Determine the effect on the project estimates, project plans, schedules, and thereafter based on that one you can revise the plans, and the estimate, you can have a lot of contingency reserves, and what is your strategy for risk, and mainly the most companies are doing the contingency plans, for risk, likewise you can say that, the vehicles, all these vehicles you are facing the flat tire, then you have a spare wheel, no issues, even tubeless, you have that one, maybe some of the risk, sometimes your motor insurance company will take over, then you don't want to worry about that. General approach to the incorporate risk, you have a statistic based analytical approach, in textbooks mainly deal with that one. Another one, the simulations, simulation in the computer software available now, then you can see the statistic based analytical approach. This is good. Input and output have some distributions which can be specified. We can use a central tendency, dispersion, probability, statistical inference, modeling type of things. You are learning from other modules, this one, from your statistic lecture. And the simulations, this is good to the situation where large number of factors show greater variability and complex interdependence to each other. Nowadays, the software available, the computer can do it better, Likewise, you remember the airline pricing, if you want to do it by hand, it's not easy, but using the computer package, you can easily do it, like Monte Carlo and the cash flow simulations, you're learning these things from your finance lecturer. And the technical methods for assessing risk, that also important, at least maybe 1 or 2 risk assessment techniques you can specialize in if you want to continue your life as the risk expert, the probability techniques, you are learning from grade 5 on, these some probability techniques, relative probability, classical probability, subjective probability, and, game theory also, the very important things, the business is almost game, how can you play the games rightly, government is there to look after you, and especially the NGOs are there, pressure groups are there, so many stakeholders, customers are there, your employees are there, trade unions are there, and the court systems are there, you have to play the game rightly, then the game theory and the auction strategy also very good way to analyze the risk. And the decision analysis, tree diagrams, heavily what we call the pharmaceutical companies are heavily using decision analysis, and a lot of computer simulations nowadays. You have public sector, you have expected marginal utility approach, and the historical data analysis, trend analysis, by regressions we are using, it happened in past, future also, that will happen with the same amount of investment, same sector, trend analysis we do, we are learning that one from your statistic lecturer. And the experts we use, experience matter, and Delphi techniques also very famous in analysis of the risk. And the standard statistical techniques, like a mean deviation, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, beta analysis, and so many statistical distribution. By look at that one through experience, you can say project is risky or not. And the risk adjustment rate of return calculations we always do. Soft system analysis we do. Past experience and brainstorming, sometimes put in few experts to there, sometimes multi-criteria analysis we do the brainstorming, and the system analysis. You find there are plenty of techniques, day and night coming, we see the risk is now separate discipline within the business, some universities or some departments, you can see they are very famous for risk, some journals, you have some professors, you have, if you do get in Morocco, you have the civil engineering department, there are professors who specialize on the risk, likewise the vertical Professor Malik Rana Singh, the very famous person regarding the risk, is, financial risk, construction risk, and, even they have a subject called the construction project management, they also study the risk, techniques for assessing the uncertainty that is not in your syllabus, and especially the equal likelihood criterion for engineering undergraduates. We teach these things under the engineering economics. Equal likelihood criterion, the minimum maximum criterion, the maximax criterion, the Hurwitz criterion, minimax regret criterion. Then you can see the problems under uncertainty. What type of criteria to use for decision making, and is the selected criteria compatible with management philosophy? What is the management view? They are optimistic for a risk, or pessimistic for a risk, or conservative for risk, or adventurous for risk, then look at that one, what is the management view of selected criteria. Then these things further explain in your main textbooks. If anybody will interest, you can read that one. That is not in the syllabus uncertainty, but uncertainty also, if you're a manager, you should know it, it is happening. You can't quantify, but in business, it can happen, And thereafter, one by one, we explain, what is each and every techniques, probability techniques, you can see, identify the possible standard distribution, and more equal means less risky, more dispersed means more risky, If I look at that one, you can see in the normal distribution curve. This can be used with the standard statistical techniques, like standard deviation. You can see it's absolute risk measures, standard deviation close to 0, less risky, close to 1, more risky. Another one, the coefficient of variation. That is what we call the relative risk measures. The coefficient of variation close to 0, less risky, close to 1, more risky. Then coefficient of variation is good measures to compare various options. People in a share market, by using this coefficient of variation and the standard deviation, they make a good money, They check the blue chip companies, the past behavior, 25 years data, and they calculate the standard deviation and the coefficient of variation. They invest money on that company. They make a big money, Then, the very simple techniques make a good money, Game theory is another one, This is a good framework for making choices in hostile environment under the extreme uncertainty. You remember when it comes to the oligopoly market, there are plenty of ways to find the solutions with the game theory. Auction is the best methods to minimize the risk of overpaying while purchasing and undervaluation while selling. Then you don't know value. People will come and employ the consultant, and they will give value to you. It has ascending, descending, and sealed bid options. In the pricing part, we discussed that one. And the game theory is the famous one in oligopoly. You can learn that one. I think you are learning game theory, very many subjects in the MBA programs, and decision analysis, in the grade 5, level you are learning that one, grade 5 competitive examination, also decision analysis are using, but heavily used by the business people, pharmaceutical companies, the drug manufacturers, they are heavily using the decision analysis, computer simulations, quite normal. And the expected marginality approach, they are mainly talking about the human attitude for risk and its relations with the money, There is a word people, to desire to avoid or minimize the risk, some type of humans you find there, the risk neutrality, the only focus return, not the risk, the risk seeking people in who like to take the risk, like a banking sector, insurance sector, they're in a risk business, You can say overall the corporate world is anyway the risk taking business, If you want to make a money, you have to take the risk, Sometimes your product may be successful, or sometimes maybe not successful at all, Sometimes you're giving a loan to the corporate world or person, sometimes you may not going to get at all it. Then you have a risk, the what we call the seeking behavior, risk aversion behavior, risk neutrality behavior, Corporate world also we can divide that one. The risk management, you can say, risk management is to decide what to do about the risk and the identification of the countermeasures. And thereafter we have to cost it, each countermeasures, how much it costs. And thereafter evaluate and select the best countermeasures and the plan the countermeasures and the design, implementation, monitor and review. Then you can see this is the thing what we do completely under the risk management. And then you can see the risk, identify, we can categorize in the following order, high impact, high probability risk. You have to consider that one. Impact high, always it is happening. Then the high impact, lower probability risk. Impact is high, but it's not always happening. But that also you have to consider. And the lower impact and the high probability, impact low, but it's always happening. That also you have to consider. But last fourth one you can ignore sometime. Lower impact, lower probability. Impact also low, it's not always happening. They have a fourth category, but other three categories, you have to have some strategies, policies to deal with that one, maybe via rules or compliance or whatever, Then you can see its impact can be ascertained. You can prepare maybe risk metrics, table, how it is going to affect for your project cost overrun always, it will affect to benefits in your revenue, income. And the project schedules, the time period, the always, time period overlap always, and the project of so many other estimates available, how it is going to affect, by using this, the table, you can prepare that one, in your textbooks, you have so many examples on that, and the risk matrix, this will set different fluctuations, the various project indicators such as the net present value, internal rate of return, and the various cost benefits ratios with the fluctuations of various project input and output, especially you can say the costing part and, the maybe construction period and maybe quality and maybe the revenue. I mean, that means the output price. Then you can see the another concept, the switch-in value. Switch-in value is the value of the variable at which the project investment decision is changed. Usually it is defined as a percentage change from the base case. Base case means what is your EIR. And the risk prompt list also, you can prepare the personal risk matrix, and switch-in value is very important there. And the risk prompt list, this will set various risk categories according to the scaling, such as a low, medium, high, with various project inputs and the outputs. And the approaches to the systematic way of analyzing risk, you have the marginal error approach. You don't want to worry about this one. Mainly we are discussing this with the undergraduates. And the certainty equivalent approach and the diagrammatic approach, risk, the curves we are preparing. You don't want to worry about that one. And the important thing is the sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis assess the uncertainty of project in the evaluation process. Then you can say generally it assess the impact on the EIR, ENPV and CB ratios of changing with key project inputs and outputs variables to check the feasibility of investment projects, to make sure that project is really robust in any change in circumstances. You can put up and down, 10% cost will go up. Then what is going to happen for EIR? What is going to happen for ENPV? What is going to happen for CB? If a project cost goes down, that is good. Anyways, EIR going up. Project goes up, what is going to happen? Still, it is the below above the threshold. Then if it is above threshold, we can say project is robust. Go ahead with the projects. That is where we are starting the highways, airport, railways, and each big projects. We are starting by look at this one. This is what we call the economic analysis. Then you can see these theory variables can be changed individually or combined. We are combining thereafter. We are first adding the cost separately, but thereafter we add in the cost and the revenue changes and the time period changes. All these three adding together, and we will say, then we will see that still the project threshold value is there. Then we can say project is robust. Go ahead with the projects. There is a way that we start this project. The Southern Highway or maybe the airport highway, the Kandy Highway, and the Rawanpur highways. We were doing that one. Our railway projects and the mega projects we do based on the sensitivity analysis. And this is the further explanation of that one. The traffic demand is the transport sector we are discussing here. Example, if traffic demand is 10% lower than expected, or project costs are 10% higher than estimated, or both of these changes in variables together, then sensitivity analysis indicates whether the project is still viable or not. If you say that the EIR is still positive, we say go ahead with it. The funding agencies have a given threshold values. If you look at the Asian Development Bank money, they will say EIR for a transport project should be above the 8%, for railway project above maybe 6%. It should be more than that. Then the first step in the process of sensitivity analysis is to determine the key variables and their possible changes. Thereafter, it is required to recalculate the economic internal rate of return, net present value, for different values for major variables and combination of variables with switching values. You have what we call the Excel at risk package, and sometimes maybe the models like HDM4 and things like transport sector, there are a lot of the software available. Once you input these parameters and the data, automatically these things are coming. Then as a managers, you have to interpret it. We always do this type of exercise. Nowadays I've been working with the Kandy Suburban Railway. We want to develop the Rabukkana to the Matale and Navalapiti Railway. The Spanish company we are working. Sometime back I worked with the Colombo Suburban Railway. That is what we call the Maradana to Kalutara and the Maradana to Puttalama and Maradana to Ramukkana and Maradana to other one, I think Kalutara, other one the Kalani Railway, other one Maradana to the Avisabel, 80-kilometer one, We want to have an elevated railway in Sri Lanka. First time, heavy railway, we are trying to elevate it, But that's a very costly work, but all the documents are ready, but the project didn't take off still, Then we are doing this type of exercise, this sensitivity analysis is there, If anybody interested, I can share with them that one. Another one, the switch-in value analysis. The switch-in value is the value of the variable at which the project investment decision is changed. Usually is defined as a percentage change from the base case. Then you can see based on that one, we will say to project to go ahead with or not. Then switch-in value also very important things to make a decision. Then you have this the sample is there. You can see that the EIR is there, the ENPV is there, the switch in values, all these things. And then you can see the base case there. Investment cost increased 10%, fuel cost increased 10%, total revenue decline, and the consumer surplus decline, cargo projection low, and the 3-year delay in implementation. We can separately, we are taking it. You can see these things are very good, and that we are combining it, 1 and 2 combining, and we will see what is going to happen. Then you can see this is a Colombo, the suburban harbor project sensitivity. I was involved in that one, and recently we complete with the AECOM, the other one, the Colombo North Port project. It's a huge project. When we complete, I work as the chief economic and financial consultant for that one. We prepare this type of table. We say go ahead with the Colombo North Port project, and there's a huge projects. Then we need this type of sensitivity analysis. And this is the further the advance in the project risk analysis. The risk analysis takes sensitivity analysis a stage further. Its ultimate aim at preventing budget overrun during the construction and providing guidance for the estimation of the project contingencies. This assess the probability that the EIR will fall to the cutoff rate or the NPV becomes 0. Then you can see in addition, it is often possible to identify ways in which the project can be made stronger and to ensure that the risks that remain are well managed. Then we are that way, then the further step we are taking the risk analysis with the probability analysis, and there are a lot of curves we are taking it. The software has all these things. If you get an Excel at risk or maybe other the HTM4, whatever the software you use in that one, maybe sometime you are preparing your own Excel workbook for that. Then automatically come in all these things. Then you can see there are the important things, the possible countermeasures for the risk. And how we are going to manage it. The first thing, avoid the risk. Then easy way to avoid. How we are avoiding the risk? You can take a different routes, and you can use a different technology. You can see the where the work breakdown structure is the best way. You break down project into the smallest unit. Then you can see where the risk is coming. Sometimes you can say the halfway through maybe you don't have the technical expertise. Then what you do? Then you don't have experienced engineers. You then have a list of the retired engineers, retired consultant, maybe the foreign consultants. Then you don't have any issues that one, maybe suppliers problems, maybe sometime maybe some of the project outputs, there are no one to buy. Then you regional market or foreign market, so you produce a byproduct or whatever, they reduce the risk, how we are going to reduce the risk. There are people available in the market, they will buy the risk, then insurance companies are there, there are risky part of the project. Sometimes you can stop, the lesser risky part of the projects, if you get a huge mega projects, there are various sections, areas of the projects, various as well. Some areas you can, you don't want to do it, likewise the Kandy, the expressway, you can see we do the part by part, the lesser risky part, first risky part come, the later. And that is where reduce the risk and the transfer interest to others. In nowadays market, there are plenty of people available, subcontractors available, third-party logistic available, insurance companies, and there are plenty of risk guys available. They are easily you can transfer, especially the outsourcing culture is there. Then identify the core business and all the non-core activities you can transfer. Especially the risky part you can transfer, but you are transferring the risk also. Then you have to be always aware that. And the contingency plans, you can have likewise the flat tire case, the always reserves are there, If a person leave, you have plenty of people to recruit, plenty of suppliers are there, plenty of other markets available, contingency plans, And if you don't have any other choice, project is important, then you accept the risk, Sometimes we do it, cultural risk is there, Sometimes environmental risk is there, social risk is there, non-quantifiable risk, we call it, It is there, but it's not quickly feel into you, Cultural risk, for generations, it takes time, Therefore, maybe the project is giving us so many employment benefit, so many foreign exchange benefit, maybe project will help to earn foreign exchange and save the foreign exchange, They are using the domestic resources, then the environmentally may be problem, But they accept it, Then they're getting more reliable information. Risk is coming because you don't have first-hand information. By using the technology or whatever things, you collect the first-hand information, then you can reduce the risk, Because risk always come because you don't have the reliable first-hand information. and getting more analytical tools, because you may don't have a people and the software and, the computers to do that one, you are acquiring these things, then, there is expert available now in international market, whenever it comes to the local project also, most of our experts are coming from abroad, because we are working with them, If you don't have anybody, we go to the Middle East, then Dubai, you have everybody, Middle East market, if you go to Singapore, you have a good risk experts are there, we are hiring them, sometimes locally, also, consultancy firms, so maybe universities, we have people, those who are specialized risk area. And the diversifications, the best things, rather than confined to one area, you diversify your business, if one is making loss, other is making profit, that is why the most companies conglomerate, they want to diversify, they're lesser risky, the countries also, Sri Lanka also, we have to diversify our export structure, then we don't have any issues, if a tea is, has a problem, then the government is giving, the government has a problems, then the coconut is giving, coconut has a problem, the rubber is giving it, that way, maybe migration, our workers, unskilled and skilled workers, diversification matters, and the other one, the hedging, especially in commodity market, like oil case, sometimes Sri Lanka did it in the wrong way. You remember sometime back, this Cabral's oil hedging case, they always thought that oil price is going on the up. They never assumed that it's going down also. Then that is why, $1, $100 per barrel, and, we went with a disaster, hedging you find in commodity market always, and the get in control of the operating environment, sometimes risk is coming from the market inside. You buy the marketing company, coming from the whole supply chain, you want to monopolize by yourself, then the complete supply chain handled by you. Then you don't have anything in spare parts manufacturing by your own country, during the disasters time, during this time, you can see the, the C-19 due to the most of the production is stopped because due to the problem in supply chain, the various part of the supply chain in different countries, it happened in Toyota stopped the work, that way, most companies face this problem. And limited use of the firm's specific assets, that there are plenty of options available in the market now, rather than using your own specific assets, maybe like a leasing options available, renting option available, there are various options, hiring options available in the market. Don't use your own things, get somebody's things, If you don't have any other choice, risk is too much, all these techniques are rejecting the project, then the solution is to stop the project, we stop very many projects, after completion of the feasibility, we stop very many projects because we can't accept it because of the too risky, the economically risky, environmentally risky, ethically, socially, it will harm to all of us, therefore we stop it. We find, yeah, okay, some messages are coming, right, okay, no issues, if you have any excuses, you can leave, right? Then you can see that I just said only few, but you can, your experience, you can share, what do you do if you have risky situations, always companies say we have to have a plan B, plan C, plan D. Nowadays, Sri Lanka situation, maybe they are looking for another market, in life also, you can't take decisions completely based on one thing, you have to have always, the humans should have to have few plans, not only plan A, B, C, D, E, F now, it depends on the country, the possible countermeasures, you cost it, and, thereafter you select the right one, you monitor it, and, that way, get a feedback on that. Then you can see anybody want to add anything? What are the other famous countermeasures for risk? Yeah, partner with somebody, yeah, if you don't know the new market, entering the new market, that may be very difficult. Sometimes you go for a merger acquisition, they do lesser risky, sometimes joint ventures, part of the risk management techniques, you don't know about the new market, you come and work 5 years with that new partner in a new market. After you identify in the market, culture market and the people behavior, you can go alone, there's a way access the new market, and what else? Your experience, your company, what do you do with the risk? You may have a risk department, person specialized risk, or maybe sometimes you are employing the consultants, risk consultants are there, Then what we call, we have a separate undergraduate program called business analytics. We are heavily teaching the risk part to them, So we have a data also, the data science based the risk management part, we are now releasing the undergraduate to that area. Risk business, mainly targeting financial sector, insurance sector. We found that there are market for undergraduates. We are doing it. Then you can see the risk is a part of our life. We human, we born with the risk. We carry risk. The companies, no difference. No exceptions. They also, whenever you do business, you are doing the risky things. Anything can happen. Sometimes you end up with nothing, but sometimes you end up with a plenty of fortune. That's a risk. Risk is separate. They are the one by one explained. I don't want to go into that. Then what is a hedging, and if anybody wants, then they can read that one. The transfer interest to others, and subcontracting, insurance, contingency plans. And if you don't have any other choice, you live with it. But the project is bringing so many other benefits. The country like Sri Lanka, we always do it. Many countries, because our main burning problem is unemployment. If a project is giving more employment to our people, and the project is bringing more foreign currencies and good tax revenue to the government income and things like, and a lot of technical skills, then maybe the technology transfers, in your area, to the country. And we don't care cultural things and, that much, whatever the social cost, environmental cost, ethical cost, then we accept it. There is a way we have to start, begin. Later we can think about, once we become matured, then we can think about all ethical and, sustainable things. Then you can see the Microsoft risk management model, the software companies, probability, which represent the likelihood that the risk will happen expressed as a percentage. Because they identify, quantify, and thereafter they impose probability. They have the impact, which indicates the degree of adverse effect should risk occur. The scale, they have 1 to 10. Cost, which indicate the potential financial impact of the risk. Earlier I prepared some diagram type of things. This is the one what Microsoft is using. The categorize, which is specify the risk type, and the description of the risk, which is specify the nature of the risk. Like risk metrics we are preparing. There's a mitigation plan, which identify the plan to control or limit the risk. And the contingency plan, which is specify the actions to be taken if the risk occurs. The trigger, which identify the conditions that would initiate the contingency plan. Then you can see this thing what we have so far discussed, the companies are using that one. And the case study on managing the risk, the new framework, the Harvard Business Research case study there. And you can, as a home exercise, you download risk at Excel and practice it with your own data, mainly for project work, we are using the risk at Excel package. And I think this is not that much expensive. And in addition to that, the nowadays the software come up with the risk part also. You take in Sri Lanka, a lot of things happen in the infrastructure. Especially whatever the regions, the roads are happening everywhere. The roads, railway, airport, seaport, and things like the bigger mega projects. Then they have more or less the software. If you get the transport sector, we have what we call the HDM4 is there, and the HDM4 has a separate section to risk calculations, then automatically we impose the data and automatically things are coming, We go to the RDA, they have lab, then the lab has that all the software, then the people go to the field and collect data and get a parameters and input there, and the model automatically giving all these things, EIR, ENPV, CB ratios, financial indicators, risk indicators, sensitive metrics, and all these risk metrics and everything is they are giving. Right. I think now you may have some idea about the risk. Then we'll go to our case study. You can say that this is the case study. Excuse me. Extra readings. Actually, this case study is actually you don't have that much answers there, because I'm saying you to summarize. It's another way of learning. Summarize case study with the 500 words. Very easy, as a groups. Earlier I put a few questions to ask, but here it will improve your the synthesizing ability. Read something and try to summarize within 500 words. As a normal group, you can do that one. This is regarding how the corporate world is the managing risk, the new framework. Then you can see that here the CEO of the British Petroleum 2000. Once he assigned the duty as a CEO, the first thing he said to all the people, the all employees use lid on coffee cups while walking and refrain from texting and while driving. That is the condition he put it. Because coffee is always drinking by these BP employees, and while using the coffee, then you use lids on coffee cups. There is a way. That's what we call the rules-based one. Some people say the rule-based risk management. Sometimes maybe rule-based, or maybe some people are then compliance. Everybody has to comply. They say there no boots, no work here. No helmet, no work there. Everybody has to comply. But even though the managing risk, rules, well, sometimes maybe dialogue matters. Discuss with the people, stakeholders, and the category of risk, they are preventable risk. Easily internal things, you can prevent, with the compliance rules, and through the dialogue you can do it. Preventable risk, and you have a strategy risk. That means if you want to make a money, you have to accept the risk. Then if you are in a finance industry, or if you are in the banking or insurance, you have to take the risk. It's a part of the business. Without risk, giving a loan to the person, you are taking the risk. But you get a lot of securities, collateral, and there's a lot of assurances and sureties and things like but even though it can end up as that is why normally bank says if a 40% default come, it doesn't matter. Still bank can run the business. If a 60% people pay, that's enough, because the interest is high, and there are way to do. There is the strategy risk is there. Some business you have. Other one, the external risk. That is a dangerous. Nowadays it's happening. Russia is attacking the Ukraine. You are in a tea business. You didn't do anything to Russia or Ukraine, but your tea market. Then your employee doesn't have income because Russia is attacking to Ukraine. And sometimes maybe you are in a bread business. You have bakery owner, but no wheat flour, because the Russia is not issuing the wheat to the world market, because 40% of wheat supplied by Russia. And Russia, not only that, energy sector, and the gas, the oil, and Russia is supplying very many things to the world market. If Russia pays a UN embargo, then most of the developing countries, the poor people in a rural, Monragal, deep interior of the village is going to suffer. Then that way, the external risk, some risks arise even outside the company and are beyond its influence or control. The bakeryman can't do nothing. Country like Sri Lanka, our tea people can't do nothing. Then that way you can see the external risk. There are 3 risk categories available, and why risk is hard to talk about. They were explained that rules and the compliance and the dialogue based maybe not going to work, and the managing strategy risk, and there is an independent experts, and then you have the new way of risk management is painful, not a natural act for humans to perform. The facilitators, you have the danger from embedding risk managers within the line organizations, that they go native, becoming deal makers rather than the deal questionnaires, embedded experts. There are companies are trying to address these risk problems by using the various things, avoid the functions trap, and understand the 3 categories of risk. Then you have that preventable risk, strategy risk, and external risk. It's a nice article, then you can read it, very small article, and you will get you don't find that much mathematics there. Managing uncontrollable, tail risk stress test, scenario planning. Then you can see the Shell oil 1960s scenario analysis use. Then you can see they get some idea, because we don't have that module. Strategic management lecturer maybe explain scenario planning, war gaming, the leadership challenge with respect to the risk. Then compliance discussion, and the rules based risk management is working internally. But strategically, some people are in the risk business, insurance, banking, and sometimes the external risk, you have to accept it, then you have to have some contingency plans, nowadays, if you're in a tea business, or if you're exporting anything to Russia or Ukraine, or if you're maybe sometimes sending students to Ukraine, that may be your main business. Most of the people do in Sri Lanka, education guys, now the most of our medical students go to Nepal or Ukraine, or Belarus, that area, then you can see now no market. Now they may be out of the business, that way. Then you can see here the question is summarize case study with 500 words. You have 2 weeks to do it. Read it. My idea is to to push you to read more. to get the knowledge, idea not to penalize anybody, push you to learn more. That was idea, these are interesting, very interesting new knowledge, creation of the new knowledge by Harvard. Then you don't find any mathematics there, very simple framework, that is why business people like the Harvard, MIT and, Rotterdam, the ideology, Right, then today we discuss something on the risk and uncertainty and case study we just go through, and we discuss the individual and group assignment. That's important, Then you people discuss and think about that, now itself we can think about the group assignments and the individual assignments. Individual one may be the good one, sometimes maybe your mind working something, because I know that you selected the Morocco management of technology MBA idea of to do something on the technology area, Sometimes you can identify the village dying technology, technology already, disappeared, but maybe very important one, It doesn't matter, sometimes if you go to the village level, people do very, the miracle things, You never know how it works, Sometimes indigenous medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, you find there are plenty of achievements in Sri Lanka, a lot of technology available, Even some people say that, even pandemic like COVID, they have a solution, but not the fake guys, but the good ones may be available, secretly, Sometimes some people can do it, a lot of things, but it's not scientific, but, maybe science can't capture everything, but maybe the science maybe not develop up to that level, but we are in the universities, we always promote the scientific way of thinking, what we call the causal effect relations. So Karl Popper's methods, something happened, there should be reasons, you have to prove with the fact, figures, evidence, otherwise we don't trust it. But there are something in the village level you find, deep interior of the country, things are working, but hard to prove scientifically, sometimes religion-based, culture-based, and, region-based, we could identify the different part of the Sri Lanka, different products, they specialize, different type of people, different religion groups, education level, and they think about individual assignments to raise, very interesting, indigenous technology. It should not be a technovia, it can be a human via, ogavia, infovia, process technology. It shouldn't be always product technology, process can be, sometimes if you go to the deeper interior of the country, chain of cultivation, agriculture, food sector, there are interesting things happening, once because we always go for research, sometimes maybe if you go to the indigenous community like Vedda group, Mayangano or some other areas, you will see that, their lifestyle, the technology they use, very sustainable, no harm to anybody. But they are living very long age, in the long life they have. But they don't go that much government hospitals type of things, And then how it happened, maybe dietary pattern or whatever, Sometimes maybe the entrepreneurship people can find maybe why the southern people are becoming more entrepreneurial in Sri Lanka compared with upcountry and Rajarata people, Maybe what is the behind the secret of that? Maybe it's a fish, they may be eating so much fish, or maybe there's a family inheritance, or whatever, maybe they eat what we call the curd, or maybe dietary pattern has something to do with the entrepreneurship, or maybe region. People coming from southerns are very, the very enterprise people, Sometimes maybe the minority wise, in Sri Lanka also majority, we were not that much enterprise, people. But, our Hindu colleagues and, Islam colleagues are very enterprising people, like a Chinese, they are very enterprising, if you go to the Kolkata area, you will see that, Chinese are completely monopolizing whole businesses there, that way, think about, maybe indigenous things, you can replace with all these things. Right, I think I also maybe not well that much. Then today we want to complete a little early. Anybody has a questions to ask and assignments? Anybody has anything? If you have not today, maybe if you have any questions, so please say to our class ref, our colleagues. Then he will inform to me, and I will upload the individual assignment also. Now itself, you can think, sometimes this individual or group assignment you can develop up to your MBA destination, now itself you can start it, seeding at this stage, then within 2 years you can complete. Because most of the time, half of the batch stopping when it comes to the research. Coursework they do perfectly. When it comes
So,
to research,
so
yeah, yes.
so a small request. I think the next case study is due on a Friday. Is it possible to put it on Saturday?
Yeah, that's okay. That's not a big issue. You can submit it Saturday and try to learn. Idea of these giving cases and everything. You to learn more. Push you people to learn more. Because now we are physically we don't see each other. I don't know because some of you maybe I'm quite sure not there. You're not behind the screen. Yeah. If I check one by one of the lecturers said he has a technology to check it. I said, what is the technology? You have to see only the video. If you on the video, then the sound is not going. So we have bandwidth and network problem. But we have so much issues with undergraduates, but you people are genuinely, mature students. When undergraduate delivery number also very high. Sometimes in our engineering faculty delivery, we have over 1,000 students, and then we have serious issues there. Always break down and online education quality is issues, because it takes time us to understand it, because we accidentally inherited it, because otherwise, we were used to always physical classes, students see the teacher, teachers see the students, and they are arguing, they were working together cooperatively, sharing tea or food, or they are learning that way, but we lost that everything now, the new technology came and, you can see our relations. Sometimes students are not seeing each other, for now 2 years. Some of the badges even didn't see the university, I think your badge also didn't see some of you, maybe one or two people knows it, maybe still the deep interior of the university you didn't see, because of the close still, but I think if anybody want to come to the user library, you can inform to your course coordinator and the head of the department, you may be allowed, library is open. University we did close. It is open. Sometime undergraduates are coming, so they were in that area coming and but we have to follow the strict COVID guidelines, Right. Anybody has any other issues? Think about now itself, your assignments, then some of these things you can develop up to the MPA dissertations, that is a 20 credit work, almost this module 3 or 4 credit. The 20 credits is a huge work, we are given a 3 months full time, part time 6 month work. Now itself, if we can identify some area and work and collect the data, and then your life going to be easy. Within 2 years, you can graduate without any issues. Our experience, each year somewhere around 40% are graduating, another 60% stopping because of the dissertation. Research time, they stop. They take time. Right. Then with this one, then we'll conclude the today's sessions. Right. Then you don't have any midterm test or nothing, just 2 assignments, case studies. That's all. Thereafter, final exam. Right. Final, if you want, we can have a closed book, or if you want, we can have open book. No issues, While in the university, try to get a knowledge. That is the idea, You're not like undergraduates, scaring you with the examination and things like, we don't want to do that, But always make sure that, nowadays, you should be able to, explain something, if now what is going to happen, the Russian war on Ukraine and their impact on us. You can guess it, You can see our import side, export side, and what is going to happen to us, Sometime it will break us, Who knows? Because most of the tourists are coming from that area to us, and tourists are trapped here. And our exports are going there, our students are going there, and there are a lot of problems can come. Therefore, read all this. At least watch. BBC Business News, CNN Business News, Al Jazeera Business News, and the French one. There, that is easily available in the Sri Lankan business magazines. And the lot of newspapers. Sunday newspapers have the business supplement. That one, there are plenty of articles available, and a lot of discussions going on, television, regarding the economy, the subjects is, the economic side of it, then you can be a good manager, you have to up-to-date knowledge, to explain something, what is the current situation, how it's going to affect for your business, Sometimes if you want to start the business, this may be the right time, All the good businesses start during the bad time, You name any business which did not start during the bad time. Microsoft start during the bad time. Google start during all these ICT bad time, bad time, everything cheaper, Good talents available for cheaper prices, Then think about that way. If you want to start the business also, this is the right time. Risky, but right time. Right, okay, with this one, then we will conclude the today's sessions. If anybody has any questions, now we are lucky we have a class representative, and you can convey to us via him, Right. I think most of you are following the textbooks, I gave so many textbooks names. At least stick into one textbooks, All the books are saying the same thing, but in different way, Basic concept is same. Cases may be different, different colors, different curves, but the basic concepts try to understand. And as managers, you don't want to memorize things, You should be able to explain something, how it is going to affect for your business, especially the national ecosystems. Nowadays, very risky, no one knows which direction Sri Lanka will end up, We don't know which direction, and even the world, no one knows if the war going to extend, There are a lot of predictions are coming from different part of the, local people also. Half of the world population can die, if Russia use the, nuclear weapons. But we hope it's not going to happen. Right. Okay, with this one, then we'll conclude the today's sessions. Thank you for everybody. Thanks.